Hey everybody, welcome to week 4 of our class CIE 401, Globalization and Contextualization. Alex back again to talk to you about your preparation activities for this week and a little bit of what I want you to notice as you move through this. So this is kind of a cool week, I have to say. There's some fun ideas and some challenging videos that I'd like for you to watch. And I think you will get a lot out of the content, both from the reading and from the preparation for this week. There are 3 main objectives for us in week 4. One is to understand how organizational models, like schools are organizational models and education systems are organizational models, spread around the world. How does that happen? Is that globalization? Is there an element of contextualization? That's kind of what we're asking. We're also trying to understand what are some of your options for careers in either NGOs or other educational organizations doing development work or curriculum work or teaching work or whatever kind of work you end up doing. And then thinking about what are the components of those kinds of careers. I mean, this is not only relevant to you because at some point I think you want to graduate and get a job, but also because it's all tied up in the question of what is globalization and what is contextualization, and how do the two come together in a way that is meaningful and hopefully positive in terms of the impact that it has on people around the world. And then finally we're going to ask kind of a broad question and try to understand whether or not international NGOs work, meaning do they do what we expect them to do or what they say they're going to do? Do they work in terms of spreading sort of globalized ideas or acting as a mechanism of globalization? Or do they have a strong component of contextualization, and do they create unique spaces for ideas and understandings that are uniquely contextualized to certain cultures or communities or societies or even individuals? So that's what we're aiming for understanding and achieving for this week. You're going to have several different learning modules. Before you start the learning modules, I would like for you to do the required readings. There are 2 required readings for this week. One is John Meyer's 2007 article called Globalization Theory and Trends from the International Journal of Comparative Sociology. If you click on that link, it will take you to this copy of the article. You need to be logged into your Lehigh Google account using your Lehigh username and password in order to access this, but it will make it easy to find it. So there's that. Then I want you to take a look at chapters 1 through 4 and then 9 and 11. It's about 130 pages from the book that I asked you to use for this class by Mueller and Overman called Working World Careers in International Education Exchange and Development. You're going to find that there's some information about the kinds of careers, but there's also going to be information about NGOs, multinational organizations, and how those are all sort of wrapped up in the world of international education and development. Really interesting read, I think, really relevant to what you want to do, or quite frankly, why those of you who are in the CIE program are in the CIE program. All right, for the modules. The first module is about the global spread of organizational models. Those are organizational models specifically related to education, of course. I say a lot in the intro text here, which I'll leave you to read, about the video from John Meyer, but I did want to point out that the first video in this module is just scenes from different schools around the world. And when you're watching this video, I want you to look at what is the same and what is different. I know if you remember class last week, I said, it drives me nuts when people say, so-and-so is both the same and different. But I want you to consider both things. What are the unique elements in each of the school scenes that you see? And what are the shared elements in each of the school scenes that you see from all of these classrooms from literally around the world? That's a challenge all by itself, because that is just probably the most superficial, but the most obvious way to think about what is globalization and what is contextualization in a classroom setting. Then I want you to watch John Meyer's video here. I really do want you to watch the first 60 minutes. That's his lecture part. It's a lecture on organizations as culturally constructed in world society. It is a straight up lecture, but you're getting a lecture from someone. By the way, I believe this is the only recorded lecture that you can find on the internet by John Mayer, which is a big deal because he's a big name and he's a big influence in not just comparative education, but sociology of education and development in education, a lot of other fields academically as well as professionally. But I will tell you, it is a lecture, and he is an emeritus professor at this point. So you can guess what the style is going to be of this lecture. I recommend that you get yourself a big steaming cup of coffee and a notebook with something to write with, because I really think it would benefit you to take notes during his lecture, and watch it. And then the last 30 minutes of this video is Q&A from the audience. This is he was obviously giving a guest talk at another institute. If you're interested in the Q&A, certainly watch it, but I mostly want you to watch his lecture. And as you're watching it, he's not going to start out by saying, I'm talking about schools or I'm talking about education systems, but he's going to use a lot of education examples throughout his lecture because, in fact, that is where he has situated a lot of his thinking, a lot of his work. All right, good stuff here. And it goes nicely with the article you read by him. The next module is on getting a job in international education and development. And it's not so much a how to get a job, it's a here are the options type thing. And the first thing that I suggest you do is take a look at the Lehigh CIE Alumni and Careers page. All you got to do is click on this. It'll open up. This is our Lehigh CIE WordPress account, and it will give you some information about the kinds of things that you can do with a CIE degree, or certainly the kinds of things that you can do in international education and development. There are links to all sorts of different types of organizations, and some of them are hot linked, meaning that you can just click on them and go there, and it should go to the job openings page. Let's just try the Institute of International Education. Hey, look at this. It does go to the job openings page. So, take a little time, look around and see what is available, what kinds of jobs there might be there. This one is very much Institute of International Education is very much related to higher ed and study abroad. But you can also, I didn't give you the websites, but they're easy to find. You can also look at multilateral organizations. You can look at bilateral organizations, donor organizations like USAID. They will have a lot of interesting information you can find on there. And they have right here a work with USAID, so you can look at how you can work with them, what are the opportunities for funding, how to build, lots of different stuff. Some of that will have to do with job opportunities, some of it will have to do with partners. If you want to look at jobs, you go to this careers page. I'm sure there's a quicker way to get there. But anyway, and then you can find more links about that as you go through. And then I've got several short videos. The first one is from Mike Kirst. Mike Kirst is also a Stanford professor. He's a politics of education professor. I believe he's emeritus, and then he served, fuzzy on his exact CV, but I believe he served as a superintendent of education in the state of California for a while. Anyway, he's got about a 5.5-minute talk about different kinds of careers you can do in education besides teaching, to be real honest. And I think it's an interesting approach and an interesting sort of just, hey, remember that there are these opportunities talk from somebody who is a really knowledgeable and he's really excited kind of guy about what you can do in education. And then there is a job about how to get a job at the UN from someone who got a job at the UN. And then there are a whole bunch of these little promo videos from different organizations that do education, international education and development related work. And they're all, 5 minutes or less. I would take a look around these. You're going to see a lot of repeat in the kinds of rationales they give for, why you should work for us. But these are the kinds of careers that people with a degree in comparative international education end up taking a lot of the time. And it will also help you think about what is the role of these organizations in terms of globalization of education and contextualization of education. So be looking for that in their you should come work for us videos. And then finally, we're going to be asking a big question about, do international NGOs work? Meaning, do they do what we think they're supposed to do? And what I really want us to do is, obviously we're going to find some mismatch, but I want us to look for ways that the global and the local are really codependent or symbiotic. How are they relying on one another? For example, I've just thrown out a thought experiment here. Do international NGOs need developing communities located in different remote places around the world in order for the NGOs to exist? Would there be a NGO that deals with girls' equity in Vietnam if there were not communities in Vietnam struggling with girls' equity? And does it go the other way? If in other words, if we eliminate gender inequality, then does the NGO go away? And so is it in the organization's best interest not to completely eradicate the problem? You know what I mean? You see where we're going with this? And do the local communities need these international NGOs? So I've given you two different perspectives on this, one from a sort of a ground perspective and one from a development perspective. And I'm interested in what you see in those. And then, of course, there's some things that I'd like for you to do before you come to class. One is I would like for you to not only look at the readings and the preparation content in these modules, but I want you to come to class prepared to both answer and discuss these three questions. I'm not going to read them here. You can read them. But I want you to come prepared for that. And then, of course, I always want you to post your comments or thoughts to each of the week's topics. Certainly by the end of the day of class if you can, but at least within that time period, please post your comments by leaving a reply right here in the section below. All right, can't wait to see you in class. I think we'll have a great discussion today and in class. And until then, happy reading and watching.